Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell spoke to local media today at Allen Park during Lions Minicamp. And I have some of my takeaways from his press conference, kind of what he said. He did provide great insight onto a lot of different things. Alim McNeill, an injury update for DJ Reader, Khalil Dorsey, Donovan Peoples-Jones. What can he do in order to kind of secure that wide receiver 3 spot? So let's get into all of it. The first clip I'm going to play is Dan Campbell and what he thinks or how he thinks Alim McNeill can take a next step as a player. And he's in a contract year, which he already said that, if you're a player on the Detroit Lions and you let a contract year affect everything, meaning, okay, this is the year I need to ball out in order for me to get paid, then you're approaching it all incorrectly, which I actually tend to agree with him. I think every single year you should be playing with that same intensity and you should be just as locked in. But he did comment on him as a player and the next step he could take. So let's play the clip and then I'll give my thoughts on it. Here's Dan Campbell on Alim McNeill.
I do. I think we all do. Mac has got so much ability, and I think he's one of the and the way that he is built and the nimbleness and athleticism and power that he has for the way that he is, for the way that he's built is just, you don't see that every day. And so we still feel like there's more in there. He's really took a big step last year. We feel like there's more in there. And, and I know that's one of the things Terrell noticed right when he came here. Our D-line coach was like, man, this guy, he said, I've always liked Alim McNeill, but I see there's more to this guy. We can get more out of him. And that's a good thing. And some of that is by, fundamentals and technique and just continuing to push. And, but Mac is, he's one of those guys. I mean, I think this can go up another step. Last year was a big year for him.
There you go. Dan Campbell. A lot of confidence in Alim McNeill. Not just Dan Campbell, but one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL, Terrell Williams, also feels there's another level that Alim McNeill can get to. And I know the conversation this offseason was it's always about what the Lions didn't do, adding to their defensive line. But I think we need to start focusing on what they do have. Alim McNeill, the player he is. Last year, missed a couple games. I mean, he was on pace to have even more sacks than he did the way he was playing. I think he ended with like 4 or 5 sacks. He could have easily got to 6, 7 sacks last year. And now we're talking about a player who, lost a lot of weight. He's quicker. His ability to rush the passer has significantly improved. I didn't think he'd get to this point. When he first was drafted, it was like, okay, he's a run stopper. But no, he's shown a lot more than that. He's shown that Hendon Hooker can rely on him. And now you have DJ Reader, who's already going to be absorbing double teams. So Alim McNeill has more help around him. Of course, if DJ Reader's healthy and Marcus Davenport, if he can just be healthy for a majority of the season, there is more help in the secondary, staying in coverage longer, giving these guys more time to be able to get after the quarterback and vice versa. They help each other out. But yeah, Alim McNeill, I don't have much to add here. We all know what kind of player he is. In terms of keeping him around long-term in Detroit, I think that's probably one of the bigger storylines to follow this year because he is up for a contract extension. This is his final year under contract. And with all the extensions that have been happening here with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Jared Goff, you have Hendon Hooker coming up, not as soon as Alim, but down the pipeline. You have to prepare for that. It is something that has to be addressed at some point. Is he going to be a long-term piece of this team? I would think so. The way Dan Campbell speaks about him and the way Terrell Williams speaks about him, they obviously love him as a player. Obviously, Lions fans love him as a player. He is a really good player. He was one of the best defensive tackles. At least you give him top 10 in the league last year or around that mark, which is an impressive ranking for a guy who really just broke out last year, and he's only getting better. So it's great to hear that stuff from Dan Campbell, and I'm really excited for what kind of jump Alim McNeill can take this year. I really am, because I think DJ Reader is going to not only help Hendon Hooker, but help Alim McNeill. Let's get to what Dan Campbell said about Donovan Peoples-Jones, because we have this conversation a lot on this show just about that wide receiver 3 spot without Josh Reynolds, who steps up. We just praised Khalif Raymond last night on last night's show and how Khalif Raymond's significantly slept on. But now you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, who I'm really high on. And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones brings a lot to this offense that you weren't really able to see last year because he was acquired at the deadline in the middle of the season while your offense is already buzzing. So it's hard to really see what he can offer when you have a well-oiled machine. So let's hear Dan Campbell. Shout out to John Macron, by the way, man, the doc. Check him out at Detroit Podcast, and he a publisher of all Lions, Sports Illustrated Zone. And he asked this question really for the boys. So shout out to Doc, man. He's a real one. So let's play this clip, and we'll react to it. So here's Dan Campbell speaking on Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let's hear what he had to say.
Raymond being so proficient, what are your realistic expectations from Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Yeah, I think he's another guy that's coming in here to help us compete, and there again, it's hard to say. This thing will shake out when we get to camp. There's a reason why we signed him back. We like DPJ. He's a different body type. He's a pretty smart guy. He brings something a little bit different to the table. He's got to play big boy ball. His separation is his size and his length, and he's got to battle some. So we'll see how this goes in training camp. If we didn't like him, he wouldn't be here.
I mean, the ending is true. They re-signed him, so obviously they like Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I think that's it's a coach answer. He has to earn that. He has to go out there and compete, which is fair. I mean, this wide receiver room, besides really Amon-Ra St. Brown, everyone's competing. I mean, Amon-Ra is just so far better than everyone else that, everyone else is just kind of in this group. J-Mo is starting to separate himself, but even and Khalif Raymond has been reliable here in Detroit for quite some time, the last couple of years. So he's maybe in a different category as well. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy who has had a great season in the NFL before. I mean, 800 yards for who he is. Yeah, it's impressive. 800 yards in Cleveland. He showed he can produce in this league. And especially as a wide receiver 3, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, with Sam Laporta, all these weapons to divert attention. And with Jared Goff, a guy who plays well with receivers that know where they're supposed to be. If they're in the right spot, he's going to trust them. He's shown that. He's a quarterback that relies on timing. So if Donovan Peoples-Jones is doing what he's supposed to do, and like Dan Campbell said, he's winning one-on-ones based on his pure size and his how physical he is as a receiver, then yeah, he's going to be out there playing. I think him and Khalif are really going to be together filling that Josh Reynolds void, in my opinion. I think Khalif Raymond's more than capable, but I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is definitely more than capable, in my opinion. So it is one of the bigger storylines to pay attention to as we get closer to training camp, is this wide receiver room and how it shapes up. You have, Fountain, you have all these other names. I mean, Isaiah Williams, who they signed as an undrafted free agent and gave a pretty hefty amount to. So there is a big group of guys that are going to be competing. And that is honestly going to be a very, very interesting battle heading into training camp. So keep an eye on these receivers. Let's get to what Dan Campbell said also about where he feels the Lions need to get to in order to beat the 49ers of the world and really the next step, because I love that Dan said this because it is self-reflection. Let's hear what Dan Campbell had to say, and then I'll give my thoughts on it, because I absolutely love what he said here.
Those are the little things where we can really grow offensively and defensively. Like the awareness of who's in, what's the situation, where we know what it says on paper, but we can't do the Ron Burgundy, we can't just continue to read off the teleprompter. We got to grow. And that's the next step. That is the next evolution. Those are the little.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What Dan Campbell said, and the reason why I love it so much is because it's self-awareness. What he's explaining is, okay, there's things that you're supposed to be doing on paper, but then there's teams that, yeah, they'll have things that they understand their job, what they have to do. But then there's a part of it where you're reacting. There's, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do, but seeing who's in the game, what time of the game it is, how am I supposed to respond to certain situations? That just comes with feel for the game. And I think teams that have been together for a little longer get that. That's just chemistry. And that's also experience for at least the players individually, just more reps and in the game slowing down, seeing more things. So the fact that Dan Campbell acknowledged that, I absolutely love it, because, there is no, There is no getting comfortable, and he understands that. But the self-awareness to be like, yeah, that's what the 49ers did last year. That's why they beat us. He could have approached that in any other way, but he was self-aware, and self-awareness is key in life. Very, very key. So love that Dan Campbell acknowledged that. And I think as the Lions continue to grow, as their defense, specifically that secondary, continue to grow, I think that's where they're going to end up heading to. It just comes with experience and time, and obviously working at it. And it seems to be a point of emphasis this offseason. So it really is a great thing. More of what he said also, I want to make sure I just mentioned this stuff. He mentioned how depth, because someone asked about adding players this offseason. He responded with, well, depth is key in terms of additions, but they don't feel pressed to add anybody, which I think is a good answer. I mean, yeah, again, that's not a bad thing to say, right? You want to add depth, especially for any good football team. You have to prepare for injuries, and you want to know you have depth. So really what that means to me is for all the people that are waiting for another big addition, whether someone gets cut or anything like that, I don't think they're too hard pressed to do that. It's more of, hey, can we get someone else to compete, make others better? That's probably what he's looking for more so. He also mentioned Hendon Hooker, how someone asked about Hendon Hooker and his development. He said that his expectations for Hendon Hooker in terms of getting to training camp is just being ready. He expects to consistently learn up until that point, and he also expects him to be comfortable. Right, comfortable leading this offense no matter what time of the game it is, what the game looks like, also just being ready. And that's really what it comes down to, being better than Nate Sudfeld and being the best option in case, God forbid, Jared Goff goes down for however long. And hopefully he stays healthy the entire year. But Hendon Hooker's development, something to pay attention to, but I'm not surprised. He's been struggling, but Dan Campbell said it. They're throwing him in the ringer. They're throwing a lot of stuff at him, and as they should. You want to get him ready as quick as possible, and they're doing that. We'll talk about it tonight on our show, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., crunch time. Check it out. Subscribe. Tell a friend also what we're doing, because we're trying to grow, and we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, and so far we're about 3,000, close to 3,000 away. So we want to say thank you for your guys' support, continuing to support, and buying our merchandise. But like the video, helps the video just in the algorithm, and until next time, I'll catch you guys.